time. And thus, the subtle element, touch, and thence the air and sense of touch become prominent. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the course of time, when the subtle forms are transformed into gross forms, they become the objects of touch. The objects of touch and the tactile sense also develop after this evolution in time. Sound is the first sense object to exhibit material existence. And from the perception of sound, touch perception evolves, and from touch perception, the perception of sight. That is the way of the gradual evolution of our perceptive objects. Very interesting verse. So this is the Canto 3, chapter 26, text 35. In the fundamental principles of material nature. So text 36. Softness and hardness, and cold and heat are the distinguishing attributes of touch, which is characterized as the subtle form of air. Purport. Tangibility is the proof of form. And actually, in actuality, objects are perceived in two different ways. They are either soft or hard, cold or hot, etc. This tangible action of the tactile sense is the result of the evolution of air, which is produced from the sky. Text 37. The action of the air is exhibited in movements, mixing, allowing approach to the objects of sound and other sense perceptions, and providing for the proper functioning of all other senses. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. We can perceive the action of the air when the branches of a tree move, or when dry leaves on the ground collect together. Similarly, it is only by the action of the air that a body moves. And when the air circulation is impeded, many diseases result. Paralysis, nervous breakdowns, madness, and many other diseases are actually due to an insufficient circulation of air. In the Ayurvedic system, these diseases are treated on the basis of air circulation. Such diseases cannot take place from the cannot take place.
No,
wait a minute. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, 1 second. Okay, so from the ethereal existence.
No. We're on the
35?
37.
37, oh, okay.
37 for 4.
Okay.
If from the beginning.
37 purport?
Yeah, we're in the middle of the purport.
Okay, yeah. We can perceive the action of the air when the branches of a tree move, or when dry leaves on the ground collect together. Similarly, it is only by the action of the air that a body moves. And when the air circulation is impeded, many diseases result. Paralysis, nervous breakdowns, madness, and many other diseases are actually due to an insufficient circulation of air. In the Ayurvedic system, these diseases are treated on the basis of air circulation. If from the beginning one takes care of the process of air circulation, such diseases cannot take place. From the Ayurveda, as well as from the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clear that so many activities are going on internally and externally because of air alone. And as soon as there is some deficiency in the air circulation, these activities cannot take place. Here it is clearly stated, Nektrivam Dravya Sabdayo. Our sense of proprietorship over action is also due to the activity of the air. If the air circulation is stifled, we cannot approach a place after hearing. If someone calls us, we hear the sound because of the air circulation. And if we approach that sound or the place from which the sound comes, it is clearly said in this verse that these are all movements of the air. The ability to detect odors is also due to the action of the air. Text 38. By interactions of the air and the sensations of touch, one receives different forms according to destiny. By evolution of such forms, there is fire, and the eye sees different forms in color. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Because of destiny. Okay, when it says destiny, it means it is one's karma. Because of destiny, the touch sensation, the interactions of air, and the situation of the mind, which is produced of the ethereal element. One receives a body according to his previous activities. Needless to say, a living entity transmigrates from one form to another. His form changes according to destiny and by the arrangement of a superior authority which controls the interaction of air and the mental situation. Form is the combination of different types of sense perception. Predestined activities are the plans of the mental situation and the interaction of air. Text 39. My dear mother, so this is what Kapila Muni speaking to his mother, Devahuti. My dear mother, the characteristics of form are understood by dimension quality, and individuality. The form of fire is appreciated by its effulgence. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Every form that we appreciate has its particular dimensions and characteristics. The quality of a particular object is appreciated by its utility. But the form of sound is independent. Forms which are invisible can be understood only by touch. That is the independent appreciation of invisible form. Visible forms are understood by analytical study of their constitution. The constitution of a certain object is appreciated by its internal action. For example, the form of salt is appreciated by the interaction of salty tastes, and the form of sugar is appreciated by the interaction of sweet tastes. Tastes and qualitative constitution are the basic principles in understanding the form of an object. That is tremendous statements here. X40. Fire is appreciated by its light and by its ability to cook, to digest, to destroy cold, to evaporate, and to give rise to hunger, thirst, eating, and drinking. Purport. The first symptoms of fire are distribution of light and heat. And the existence of fire is also perceived in the stomach. Without fire, we cannot digest what we eat. Without digestion, there is no hunger and thirst or power to eat and drink. When there is insufficient hunger and thirst, it is understood that there is a shortage of fire within the stomach. Okay, when we talk about fire in the stomach, it's referring to hydrochloric acid and that is in the stomach. Now, how do you develop hydrochloric acid? Well, we should come to that in a minute or so, I think. When there is insufficient hunger and thirst, it is understood that there is a shortage of fire within the stomach. And the Ayurvedic treatment is performed in connection with the fire element. Agni Mandyam. Since fire is increased by the secretion of bile. Okay, bile is acid. Look up the word bile, B-I-L-E. The treatment is to increase bile secretion. The Ayurvedic treatment thus corroborates the statements in Srimad Bhagavatam. The characteristic of fire is subduing the influence of cold. The characteristic of fire in subduing the influence of cold is known to everyone. Severe cold can always be counteracted by fire. Okay, so you're looking up
Bile.
bile.
Bile is a greenish yellow fluid produced by the liver and stored in gallbladder. It plays a crucial role in digestion, particularly in the breakdown and absorption of dietary fats. Bile is released into the small intestine, duodenum, when you eat fatty foods. Components of bile. Bile salts help emulsify fats, breaking them into smaller droplets for easier digestion by enzymes. Then cholesterol, a waste product excreted from the body. Bilirubin, a byproduct of the breakdown of red blood cells, giving bile its color. Water, most of the makes up most of the bile, and electrolytes and phospholipids support fat digestion and absorption. Functions of the bile. Fat digestion breaks down the fat into smaller molecules to be absorbed by the intestines. Waste excretion helps the body to remove toxins, cholesterol, and other waste products. And then pH neutralization neutralizes the stomach acid entering the small intestine. So any disruptions in the bile production or flow can lead to digestive issues and conditions like gallstones or jaundice.
Conditions of
Gallstones are
what kind of stones?
Gallston,
Gallstones.
gallstones,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
then jaundice.
Yeah. Jaundice. Yeah. Jaundice is. What's the other name? Jaundice.
Yellow fever.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, go ahead.
That's it.
All right. So there is fire in the stomach, but it's it is in the form of hydrochloric acid. And if there's too much fire, then you have this burning uh, uh, sensation in the stomach, and it can rise up through uh, through your uh, from the stomach to your let's say neck, and it's it's very uncomfortable feeling, and it's a burning sensation. And why is it burning? Because there's too much hydrochloric acid, which has to be neutralized. But sometimes there's too much hydrochloric acid, and then we have these uh, very uncomfortable burning sensation, uh, and food is not properly digested. It's by eating incorrect ways of eating, and eventually you get this burning sensation in your throat. And so anyway, what's being said here is, since fire is increased by the secretion of bile, the treatment is to increase bile secretion. Let me read that again. Since fire is increased by the secretion of bile, the treatment is to increase bile secretion. The Ayurvedic treatment thus corroborates the statements in Srimad Bhagavatam. The characteristic of fire is subduing the influence of cold, is known to everyone. Severe cold can always be corrected by fire. Okay. Let's read that whole purport again. The first symptoms of fire are distribution of light and heat, and the existence of fire is also perceived in the stomach. Without fire, we cannot digest what we eat. Without digestion, there is no hunger and thirst. or power to eat and drink. When there is insufficient hunger and thirst, it is understood that there is a shortage of fire within the stomach. And the Ayurvedic treatment is performed in connection with the fire element Agni Mandyam. Since fire is increased by the secretion of bile, the treatment is to increase bile secretion. The Ayurvedic treatment thus corroborates the statements in Srimad Bhagavatam. The characteristic of fire in subduing the influence of cold is known to everyone. Severe cold can always be counteracted by fire. Anyway, this fire in the stomach is due to hydrochloric acid, although it doesn't mention that here. It says the fire element is Agni Mandyan. Why don't you look up the definition of bile?
Yeah, we just read Maharaj.
Yeah, can you read it again?
Bile is a greenish yellow fluid produced by the liver and stored in gallbladder. It plays a crucial role in digestion, particularly in the breakdown and absorption of dietary fats. Bile is released into the small intestine, duodenum, when you eat fatty foods. Key components of bile. Bile salts help emulsify fats, breaking them into smaller droplets for easier digestion by enzymes. Number 2, cholesterol, a waste product excreted from the body. Number 3, bilirubin, this a byproduct of the breakdown of the red blood cells, giving bile its color. Water makes up most of the bile, and then electrolytes and phospholipids. They support the fat digestion and absorption. Functions. Fat digestion breaks down the fat into smaller molecules to be absorbed by the intestines. Waste excretion help the body remove toxins, cholesterol, and other waste products. pH neutralization neutralizes the stomach acid entering into the small intestine. So it looks like, hydrochloric acid is first does one part, and then the bile does the next part. So let's see what is the function.
Well, we understand what hydrochloric acid is, but bile is what?
Bile is the one that is required to break down fats.
Okay.
So hydrochloric acid also is important. Hydrochloric acid produced by the stomach plays a critical role in digestion.
Yeah, that's the fire in the stomach, hydrochloric acid.
It looks like both are considered fire, because anything that is breaking down.
Okay.
So the hydrochloric acid functions are, it breaks down the protein. Bile breaks down the fat, whereas the hydrochloric acid breaks down the protein. So HCl activates the enzyme called pepsinogen into pepsin, from inactive pepsinogen into pepsin, which breaks down the proteins into smaller peptides. Maintaining the acidic environment provides a low pH, optimal for enzymic activity, particularly pepsin, killing harmful microorganisms. acts as a defense mechanism by destroying bacteria, viruses, and pathogens present in the food.
Present in food.
Yeah, if it is in the in the food, when it goes into the stomach, because of the high acidity, all these bacteria and viruses are
Killed.
killed. And breaking down food helps denature or unfold proteins and making them easier for enzymes to digest. Assists in breaking down complex molecules for absorption. Aids in nutrient absorption. Facilitates the absorption of minerals like iron, calcium, and magnesium by keeping them in soluble form. So, role of hydrochloric acid in the stomach. Number one, production by parietal cells.
By what?
Parietal cells. HCl is secreted by parietal cells in the lining of the stomach. So, in the lining of the stomach, there are specific cells called parietal cells, PARIE, parietal cells. Stimulus for release. Cephalic phase, brain triggered by the sight, smell, taste, or thought of the food, stimulating the vagus nerve. So there is a particular brain stimulates the release of the hydrochloric acid. Then gastric phase, triggered by food entering the stomach, causing the release of gastrin, a hormone that stimulates HCl production. Then there is the intestinal phase, which is a small intestine, moderate HCl release based on the presence of the partially digested food. So first level is brain, gives the signal to release the hydrochloric acid. Second level is as the food is entering the stomach, it releases something called gastrin, a hormone that also stimulates the hydrochloric acid production. And then at the same time, as the food enters into the small intestine where it's already mostly digested, at that point it needs to reduce the hydrochloric acid. That's where the bile comes in and then reduces. So these are the three functions, are the trigger points for releasing the hydrochloric acid or controlling mechanism. The parietal cells pump hydrogen ions into the stomach lumen via the proton pump. And then the chloride ions follow passively, combining with hydrogen ions to form the hydrochloric acid. It's like a big chemical factory.
Yeah, the body is a chemical fact.
Regulation. Stimulators, gastrin, histamine, and acetylcholine enhance HCl production. Inhibitors, low pH feedback mechanism, somatostatin, and certain medications like proton pump inhibitors stop the HCl production. So HCl not only aids digestion but also protects the body by neutralizing harmful microbes. Its release is tightly regulated to prevent excessive acid, which could harm the stomach lining and lead conditions like acid reflux or ulcers.
Yeah, acid reflux is experienced by this acidity that's going up through the esophagus. It's very uncomfortable feeling when you have that acid reflux, and it can damage your esophagus,
Hmm.
which would also it could cause death actually if it becomes very acute. In other words, acid is coming up from the stomach into the throat, and you have this burning sensation in the throat. All these things happen when you don't eat properly. Mm. So it says the characteristic of fire in subduing the influence of cold is known to everyone. Severe cold can always be counteracted by fire. Okay, let's go on to text 41. By the interaction of fire and the visual sensation, the subtle element taste evolves under a superior arrangement. From taste, water is produced, and the tongue, which perceives taste, is also manifested. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The tongue is described here as an instrument for acquiring knowledge of taste. Because taste is a product of water, there is always saliva on the tongue. Text 42. Although originally one, although originally one, taste becomes manifold as astringent, sweet, bitter, pungent, sour, and salty due to contact with other substances. Okay, so these are the different types of taste. There's astringent taste, sweet taste, bitter taste, pungent taste, sour, and salty taste due to contact with other substances. Text 43. Mm. One second. The characteristics of water are exhibited by its moistening other substances. When you moisten something, you make it wet. Coagulating various mixtures, causing satisfaction, maintaining life, softening things, driving away heat, incessantly supplying itself to reservoirs of water, and refreshing by slaking thirst, meaning slaking means that it's satisfying thirst. Purport. Starvation can be mitigated by drinking water. It is sometimes found that if a person who has taken a vow to fast takes a little water at intervals, the exhaustion of fasting is at once mitigated. In the Vedas, it is also stated, Apomaya prana, life depends on water. With water, anything can be moistened or dampened. Flour dough can be prepared with a mixture of water. Mud is made by mixing earth with water. As stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, water is the cementing ingredient of different material elements. If we build a house, water is actually the constituent in making the bricks. Fire, water, and air are the exchanging elements for the entire material manifestation. But water is most prominent. Also, excessive heat can be reduced simply by pouring water on the heated field. Okay, text 44. Due to the interaction of water with the taste perception, the subtle element odor evolves under superior arrangement. Thence, that's a more thence THENCE is more of a archaic or old type of English word. Thence, the earth and the olfactory sense, the ability, the olfactory means smelling, by which we can variously experience the aroma of the earth become manifest. Okay. Odor, although one, becomes many as mixed, offensive, fragrant, mild, strong, acidic, and so on, according to the proportions of associated substances. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Mixed smell is sometimes perceived in foodstuffs prepared from various ingredients, such as vegetables mixed with different kinds of spices and asafoetida. Bad odors are perceived in filthy places. Good smells are perceived from camphor, menthol, and similar other products. Pungent smells are perceived from garlic and onions. Acidic smells are perceived from turmeric and similar sour substances. The original aroma is the odor emanating from the earth, and when it mixes with the different substances, this odor appears in different ways. Text 46. The characteristics of the functions of earth can be perceived by modeling forms of the Supreme Brahman, by constructing places of residence, by preparing pots to contain water, etc. In other words, the earth is the place of sustenance for all elements. Purport. Different elements such as sound, sky, air, fire, and water can be perceived in the earth. Another feature of the earth, especially mentioned here, is that earth can manifest different forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By this statement of Kapilas, it is confirmed that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahman, has innumerable forms which are described in the scriptures. By the manipulation of earth and its products, such as stone, wood, and jewels, these forms of the Supreme Lord can be present before our eyes. When a form of Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu is manifested by presentation of a statue made of earth, it is not imaginary. The earth gives shape to the Lord's forms, as described in the scriptures. In the Brahma Samhita, there is a description of Lord Krishna's lands, the variegatedness of the spiritual abode, and the forms of the Lord playing a flute with his spiritual body. All these forms are described in the scriptures. And when they are thus presented, they become worshipable. They are not imaginary, as the Mayavada philosophy says. Sometimes the word bhavana is misinterpreted as imagination, but bhavana does not mean imagination. It means giving actual shape to the description of Vedic literature. Earth is the ultimate transformation of all living entities and their respective modes of material nature. Text 47. The sense whose object of perception is sound is called the auditory sense, and that whose object of perception is touch is called the tactile sense. Sound is one of the Sound is one of the qualifications of the sky and is the subject matter for hearing. Similarly, touch is the qualification of the air and is the subject of the touch sensation. Text 48. The sense whose object of perception is form, the distinctive characteristic of fire, is the sense of sight. The sense whose object of perception is taste, the distinctive characteristic of water, is known as the sense of taste. Finally, the sense whose object of perception is odor, the distinctive characteristic of earth, is called the sense of smell. Text 49. Since the cause exists in its effect as well, the characteristics of the former are observed in the latter. That is why the peculiarities of all elements exist in the earth alone. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sound is the cause of the sky. Sky is the cause of the air. And air is the cause of fire. Fire is the cause of water. And water is the cause of earth. In the sky, there is only sound. In the air, there are sound and touch. In the fire, there are sound, touch, and form. In water, there are sound, touch, form, and taste. And in the earth, there are sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. And in the earth, there are sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. Therefore, earth is the reservoir of all the qualities of the other elements. Earth is the sum total of all other elements. The earth has all 5 qualities of the elements. Water has 4 qualities. Fire has 3. Air has 2. And the sky has only 1 quality, sound. This is all, basically how the life begins. All these things happen in nature, and then we become, a living body. Text 50. When all these elements were unmixed, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin of creation, along with time, work, and the qualities of the modes of material nature, entered into the universe with the total material energy in 7 divisions. Purport. After stating the generation of the causes, Kapila speaks about the generation of the effects. At that time, when the causes were unmixed, the Supreme Personality Godhead, in its feature of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, entered within each universe. Accompanying him were all of the 7 primary elements. That is, the 5 material elements, the total energy or Mahatattva, and the false ego. This entrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead involves his entering even the atoms of the material world. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, 5th chapter, 35th verse. Andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam. He is not only within the universe, but within the atoms also. He is within the heart of every living entity. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the Supreme Personality Godhead, entered into everything. Text 51. From these 7 principles, roused into activity and united by the presence of the Lord, an unintelligent egg arose, from which appeared the celebrated cosmic being. Purport. In sex life, the combination of matter from parents, which involves emulsification and secretion, creates the situation whereby a soul is received within matter. And the combination of matter gradually develops into a complete body. The same principle exists in the universal creation. The ingredients were present, but only when the Lord entered into the material elements was matter actually agitated. That is the cause of creation. We can see this in our ordinary experience. Although we may have clay, water, and fire, the elements take the shape of a brick only when labor to combine them. Without the living energy, there is no possibility that matter can take shape. Similarly, this material world does not develop unless agitated by the Supreme Lord as the Virat Purusha. Yashmad Udatistad Aso Virat. By his agitation, space was created. And the universal form of the Lord also manifested therein. Well, when it says, Yasmad Udatistad Aso Virat, by his agitation, space was created. Well, it's by sounds. When there is, the Om sounds that begins the creation. First of all, it creates space, and then from space, everything else begins to develop. That's why it says, Yasmad Udatistad Aso Virat, by his agitation, space was created. And the universal form of the Lord also manifested therein. So space is created by sound. The original sound is Om. This universal egg, or the universe in the shape of an egg, is called the manifestation of material energy. Its layers of water, air, fire, sky, ego, and Mahatattva increase in thickness one after another. Each layer is 10 times bigger than the previous one, and the final outside layer is covered by pradhana. Pradhana, and we read about this previously, is the state of the material nature right before its manifestation.
Mhm.
Hmm. Okay, where were we reading from? Within this egg is the universal form of Lord Hari, of whose body the 14 planetary systems are parts. Purport. This universe, or the universal sky, which we can visualize its innumerable planets, is shaped just like an egg. As an egg is covered by a shell, the universe is also covered by various layers. The first layer is water, the next is fire, then air, then sky, and the ultimate holding crust is pradana. Within this egg-like universe is the universal form of the Lord as the Virat Purusha. All the different planetary situations are parts of his body. This is already explained in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto. The planetary systems are considered to form different bodily parts of that universal form of the Lord. Persons who cannot directly engage in the worship of the transcendental form of the Lord are advised to think of and worship this universal form. The lowest planetary system, Patala, is considered to be the soul, and soul meaning what's spelled Sole, the soul of the Supreme Lord, meaning the bottom of the Supreme Lord, the support of the Supreme Lord. And the earth is considered to be the belly of the Lord. Brahmaloka, or the highest planetary system where Brahma lives, is considered to be the head of the Lord. The Virat Purusha is considered an incarnation of the Lord. The original form of the Lord is Krishna, as confirmed in Brahma Samhita Adi Purusha. The Virat Purusha is also Purusha, but he is not Adi Purusha, Adi meaning the original. The Adi Purusha is Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is also accepted as the Adi Purusha, Adi meaning the first Purusha, first living entity, the original. Krishna says, no one is greater than I. There are innumerable expansions of the Lord, and all of them are Purushas or enjoyers, but neither the Virat Purusha nor the Purusha avatars, meaning Karanadakshay Vishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, and Shirodakshay Vishnu, nor any of the many other expansions is the original. In each universe, there are Garbhadakshay Vishnu, the Virat Purusha, and Shirodakshay Vishnu. The active manifestation of the Virat Purusha is described here. Persons who are in the lower grade of understanding regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead may think of the universal form of the Lord, for that is advised in the Bhagavatam. Okay. May think of the universal form of the Lord, for that is advised. The dimensions of the universe are estimated here. The outer covering is made of layers of water, air, fire, sky, ego, and Mahatattva, and each layer is 10 times greater than the one previous. The space within the hollow of the universe cannot be measured by any human scientist or anyone else. And beyond the hollow, there are 7 coverings, each one 10 times greater than the one preceding. The layer of water is 10 times greater than the diameter of the universe, and the layer of fire is 10 times greater than that of water. Similarly, the layer of air is 10 times greater than that of fire. These dimensions are all inconceivable to the tiny brain of a human being. So these things, what are these things? These things are the substances of which the material nature is manifested. So there's a tremendous, let's say, um, uh, collection of these substances that are used for creating things. And they exist as coverings of the material world. Okay, that's why it says the dimensions of the universe are estimated here. The outer covering is made of layers of water, air, fire, sky, ego, and Mahatattva, and each layer is 10 times greater than the one previous. Well, these are the fundamental elements that are used for creating things. The space within the hollow of the universe cannot be measured by any human scientist or anyone else. And beyond the hollow, there are 7 coverings, each one 10 times greater than the one preceding it. The layer of water is 10 times greater than the diameter of the universe, and the layer of fire is 10 times greater than that of water. Similarly, the layer of air is 10 times greater than that of fire. These dimensions are all inconceivable to the tiny brain of a human being. It is also stated that this description is of only one egg-like universe. There are innumerable universes besides this one, and some of them are many times greater. It is considered, in fact, that this universe is the smallest. Therefore, the predominating superintendent, or Brahma, has only 4 heads for management. In other universes, which are far greater than this one, Brahma has more heads. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is stated that all these Brahmas were called one day by Lord Krishna on the inquiry of the small Brahma, who, after seeing all the larger Brahmas, was thunderstruck. That is the inconceivable potency of the Lord. No one can measure the length and breadth of God by speculation or by false identification with God. These attempts are symptoms of lunacy. Lunacy means complete,
Madness.
yeah, complete craziness. Okay, so obviously there are many mysterious things in this universe. Some of those things we can see, and some of those things we cannot see. Therefore, we have to accept the explanation of the Shastras, as we are doing now. Otherwise, there's no way to understand either the manifest things or the unmanifest things. Okay, so then text 53. Kiran Mayad anda Koshad Uttaya Salile Sayat Tam Avishya Mahadevo Bahuda Nirbi Vedakam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Virat Purusha, the situated himself in that golden egg which was lying on the water, and he divided it into many departments. Text 54. First of all, a mouth appeared in him, and then came forth the organ of speech, and with it the god of fire, the deity who presides over that organ. Then a pair of nostrils appeared, and in them appeared the olfactory sense, as well as prana, the vital air. Purport. With the manifestation of speech, fire also became manifested. And with the manifestation of nostrils, the vital air, the breathing process, and the sense of smell also became manifested. So what we're hearing here is the fundamental principles of material nature and the gradual process of creation, step by step. Text 55. In the wake of the olfactory sense came the wind god, who presides over that sense. Olfactory means what you can smell. Thereafter, a pair of eyes appeared in the universal form, and in them the sense of sight. In the wake of this sense came the sun god, who presides over it. Next, there appeared in him a pair of ears, and in them the auditory sense or the hearing sense, and in its wake the devatas or the deities who preside over the directions. Purport. The appearance of different bodily parts of the Lord's universal form and the appearance of the presiding deities of those bodily forms is being described. As in the womb of a mother, a child gradually grows different bodily parts. So in the universal womb, the universal form of the Lord gives rise to the creation of various paraphernalia. The senses appear, and over each of them there is a presiding deity. It is corroborated by the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam and also by Brahma Samhita that the sun appeared after the appearance of the eyes of the universal form of the Lord. The sun is dependent on the eyes of the universal form. The Brahma Samhita also says that the sun is the eye of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Yet Chaksha Esa Savita. Savita means the sun. The sun is the eye of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, everything is created by the universal body of the Supreme Godhead. Material nature is simply the supplier of the materials. The creation is actually done by the Supreme Lord, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:10. Mayadaksena Pakriti Suyute Sa Characharam. Under my direction does material nature create all moving and non-moving objects in the cosmic creation. That's Bhagavad Gita 9:10. Okay, we'll stop here. This is all about the fundamental principles of material nature, which explains how creation has taken place and how it's being maintained. And ultimately, it'll be wound up again. So there is what you would say a cyclical process of things being created and things being destroyed. And this is going on all the time in material nature. But here we have a chance of hearing the different stages of this creation and destruction. The soul, of course, is eternal, but this whole process of creation and destruction is going on and it bewilders the living entity. Therefore, it's important that we're able to read these verses, and especially the purports that Prabhupada gives to them, so we get a general understanding of what's going on, not only in this body, but in the whole universe. So the body is a microscopic facsimile of the universe. So whatever's going on in our body is going on in the universe. So this is real knowledge. Nowhere else can you get this knowledge of the genesis of creation and the dissolution of the material nature. Scientists don't know all these things. That's why they have to read the Srimad Bhagavatam to understand what is actually happening in the material universe, in its genesis, maintenance, and destruction. These three things are going on. There's creation, there is what you would say is maintenance, and then eventually destruction. And that's why it says the creation is actually done by the Supreme Lord, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Maya dakshena pakruti sute sa characharan. Under my direction does material nature create all moving and non-moving objects in the cosmic creation. Okay, well that completely eliminates any validity of Darwin and his speculations of how the material nature has come about, and all other speculations.
Darwin, Big Bang.
Yeah, Big Bang, Big Bum.
Hmm.
Okay, so I think we'll stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
The main statement here is, under my direction, Krishna says, does material nature create all moving and non-moving objects in the cosmic creation. Maya dakshena prakriti suyate characharam. That's a very, very important statement that gives exactly the who is creating the material creation. Under my direction, does material nature create all moving and non-moving objects in the cosmic creation? So that is the ultimate statement of who's in control of material creation. Haribol, thank you very much. And we will continue tomorrow. Are there any questions, comments, etc.? Hare Krishna, there's your chance. So the important takeaway today is, under my direction, meaning Krishna's direction, does material nature create all moving and non-moving objects in the cosmic creation? So he's the creator of everything. He, meaning Krishna. And the major statement is Bhagavad Gita 9.10, Maya dakshina pakriti suyate sa characharam. Under my direction, does material nature create all moving and non-moving objects in the cosmic creation? There it is, the ultimate statement of how things have been created, maintained, and ultimately destroyed. So this cyclic organization of life is going on. And it's all under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. the scientists, they have just very, very, let's say, hazy understanding of this. They can say so many things, but it's never really completely understood by them. But by reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, and especially by reading the purports by Srila Prabhupada, we have a chance of understanding all these mysterious things that are happening in our body and outside our body, and in our subtle body and our gross body. We have a subtle body, we have a gross body. So all these things are, let's say, very close to us, but due to bad education and speculation, although we're very close to these things, we don't really understand how they're functioning. Now we're getting the explanation in the Srimad Bhagavatam, how all these vital processes are going on in our body and around our body. So it's important that we read Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, we'll be all shrouded by the darkness of ignorance and not really understand what's going on in the material nature. And that's what this whole chapter is about. Fundamental principles of material nature. Hare Krishna. Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Jai. So here is a step-by-step explanation of material creation. Haribol.
Right.